Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about three big signs that your business may never be sold. So, if you're a business owner and you think that you want to sell one day or you're planning on selling as part of your retirement, then you'll want to pay close attention to this video.
I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses while controlling risk. So, if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So, be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it.
Are you a small business owner that's thinking about exiting your business now or in the next few years? My team and I are here to help with our unique zero commission program that we've been using since 2016. We can show you what your business is worth, prepare the package you'll need before you meet your first buyer, even run a confidential online advertising program for you just like business brokers do. And we'll coach you through the whole process, or you can hire us to manage it all for you, including coordinating your whole sell-side deal team. Head over to howtosellmyownbusiness.com to learn about how my team and I can help you get ready by watching a series of videos we prepared that explain each step in detail. And if you're ready or just curious to learn more, reach out to us and we'll get you started or schedule a call to answer your questions. I look forward to meeting you and learning more about your business. All right. So let me tell you about a place that I just went to. I just came back from a short conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was called VidFest Expo, and it was all about online creators. And I went down there to share a little bit about how I use YouTube in promoting my business and to learn from other people about the things that they're doing with YouTube and other video platforms and to find out, how I can better promote myself online. So it was really interesting, but with every kind of business conference that you go to, the real magic happens, sort of between the meetings or during the break time or afterwards when people are gathering together and getting a bite to eat and things like that. And that's when people start to really get to know each other and share stories. And of course, people found out that I work in the space of helping people to buy and sell businesses. And so a lot of people approached me just to get sort of my feedback and opinion on their thoughts about their business and what they were trying to do. And literally the topic of YouTube channels being sold was something that came up quite often in conversations that I was having because there are YouTube and online sort of content creation channels that are now being successfully sold. And different channels, of course, have different kinds of characteristics associated with them that could make them more or less sellable. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of bring that recent experience together here with a topic that I've been wanting to cover for quite some time. And these are the sort of signs that your business may not be sellable. Now, when people think about selling a business, what are they typically thinking about? They're thinking about, oh, I'm going to, prepare some kind of marketing package that's going to tell the story of my business. I'm going to advertise it. Maybe I'll hire a business broker. I'll put this out online, and somebody's going to see that, and they're going to contact me. We're going to sign an NDA. There's going to be some kind of examination, an offer, due diligence. We're going to meet some lawyers. We're going to get paperwork done, and I'm going to get some kind of check. And following my channel, you probably understand that in selling most businesses, you may end up having to finance part of the transaction. So that is a sale of a business the way most people would imagine it. And today I'm going to talk about three signs that that kind of sort of stereotypical transaction uh, could be really not achievable for you if your business has one of these three indications. Okay. So, first of all, let's just talk about that scenario I just gave you and how rare it is. So, BizBuySell puts out a quarterly report on the activity on their platform. And I've covered them a few times over the years. And one of the consistent things is that 75 to 80% of all the businesses that get listed on their platform do not sell. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that pulling this off is hard, right? And what I will often say when I'm addressing groups of business owners is I will say that getting an LOI or an offer on your business is like winning the lottery because there's a very low chance of success in getting to that point. And then closing the deal 3 or 4 or 5 months later, whatever it takes, is like winning it again. Because once people get an offer, 50% of those deals do not ever complete, right? So we're talking about something that is hard to pull off in aggregate. There are some businesses that sell very quickly, right? I remember back around 2010, if you put a Subway restaurant up for sale, all you had to do was show a few weeks of their standard internal performance reports, and people would issue an offer on that business. And at the time, there was a finance company called GE Capital that was financing them because it was such a hot money making kind of business. That sort of business, you like, I don't know, it was like selling a government bond or something, right? Like, there was always a market for it, you could always sell it. Yeah, most businesses are not like that, right? There are tuck-in opportunities, like if you are in a certain industry where there's lots of big operators always looking to gobble up little players, you will be able to get some kind of offer for a business that you own in that kind of sector, probably. Um, but will it be based more upon your assets, right, than really the business as a going concern? So here are 3 signs that your business may not be sellable or may never be sold, and I'm going to talk about what can be done about some of these situations and why you still might be able to sell one of these businesses if you are properly prepared for what the process is going to look like. So, sign number one is that the business depends on you personally, right? So, this is the sort of classic, you know, don't buy a job. Well, I could also tell you don't sell a job. But here's the reality is that if the owner of the business, if you as an owner are the rainmaker or the main technician, or you are the bottleneck of the entire enterprise and the whole thing relies upon you, then selling your business is basically going to come down to finding someone who is like your clone, but maybe younger, right? And so it's going to be difficult. And then that person is going to keenly realize that the only way the business is going to function the way you've built it is if they step in and act just like you and make themselves the rainmaker, bottleneck, technician, etc. And so the problem with this is that people will often go to the normal metrics of valuing a business, and they will say, "Oh, here's my SDE multiplied by the certain number. This is what I want for my business." And what the buyers will look at is they will say, this is only making money because of your work, and it will only make money after I buy it because of my work, right? So what we're talking about here literally is selling a job. And oftentimes it just doesn't work because the buyers are going to start to frame it within the context of, why would I buy this instead of just going and getting a job and keeping my down payment money and investing it somewhere else, right? Especially if the cash flow associated with it is not that much more than what the person with the right skills and abilities is going to be able to earn or command in the job market, right? So, if you can't, for example, take a 2-month vacation from your business without things falling apart, then you may be falling into this kind of category, right? Now, here's the thing: can you actually sell that kind of business? You can, but here's the thing: is you have to understand what it is that you're trying to sell, and so that kind of business would be more um, apt to be sold if you found the right candidate and then created some kind of multi-year sort of phased buyout exit succession sort of deal with them, where they came in as an employee. You started to teach them what they needed to know. They started to buy some of the shares over a course of time. They took over. All of those key relationships that you have at the beginning can start to be shared, right? And so the goodwill in those relationships starts to rub off on the new person. All the customers increasingly build confidence in the new person, knowing that you're still hanging around, right? And so that kind of thing could very well be possible. And we see this in industries where you wouldn't even really consider somebody having a business. Like we'll often see, for example, in commercial real estate, the more senior agent who's been around the block for 30 years will get the more junior partner, and they will work together over the course of several years, and they'll have some kind of deal between them where they're sharing commissions. But the reason the junior person is coming on board with the more senior person is because they want to then take over some of these relationships and have some of that established career goodwill rub off on them. And that's sort of a micro kind of view of what we're talking about here. But listen, I've seen these owner dependent businesses be multi-million dollar enterprises with 15 to 20 employees. But that owner is still critically this bottleneck that is clogging things up. So again, if everything depends on you, it's a sign you may never sell your business. But if you are properly prepared and you know what it's going to look like and you are able to build a plan and you give yourself the time to do it, you could retire and put some money in your pocket, even if it is simply the fact that you'll be able to take a step back and kind of semi-retire for several years while you're still part owner and collect some of the dividends out of the operation that the new person is building up or ramping up. So that's sign number one. Sign number two: very poor or inconsistent financial records. So we talk a lot on this channel about normalization, about how small business owners will sometimes manage their business in a way that minimizes tax burden. But what does that do? It means that the tax returns don't show any degree of profitability. Um, so if you have low profitability on your tax returns, a buyer, especially if they're going to want to get financing, they're going to have to go to a bank, and the bankers will understand certain adjustments, right? So there are certain add backs or adjustments to financial statements that bankers will accept. They'll look at them, they'll listen to the story. There are other ones that they won't. And if you're, for example, are in the United States and you want to sell your business to someone who's going to use an SBA loan, then there's like two sets of rules there. There's what the bank will accept, but then the SBA requires that these things be reconciled against the tax return. And so there are limits now to just how much room you can wiggle if this buyer is going to be able to tell the story to the bank to get the financing. So, what's worse than long periods of low profitability with really great adjustment stories is inconsistent performance. So, if a business has high profitability one year and low profitability the next year, and it's just up and down, then it makes it hard for anyone, even with adjustments, to be able to demonstrate that it's a good idea to lend someone money to buy that business because they can very easily see, well, in the past 5 years, you would have been able to make the payments in 3 of the years, but in one year you would have not, and in the fourth or the last year, you would have lost money. You would be working for free and not making the bank loan payment, and so that's not going to happen. Like no lender is going to lend into that kind of scenario. So, if the books are messy, if they're disorganized, or if you have inconsistency in your performance, these are going to be problems. And sometimes the inconsistency in the performance is created by the choices you make in how you keep your books. So, for example, one of the things that I often see is some kind of e-commerce business where people are buying container loads of stuff that come from another country. And particularly for U.S. based businesses, they have the choice between cash and accrual based accounting. Most other countries don't allow cash based accounting. Like here in Canada, I think only farmers are allowed to do cash based. But that business owner will choose cash based accounting because it's easier for them. And what does that mean? It means that in one year they bought a whole container load full of stuff, and so they have a big expense. They save money on taxes that year, but then the next year they sold that stuff. They didn't have any purchases, and now their profitability is huge, right? And then the year after that, they ordered another container load of stuff, and their profitability went down. Well, if that person were to use accrual based accounting, they would likely show a much smoother level of operating profit because they'd have to recognize the inventory and then they would, they would expense down the inventory basically as they sold the goods in that second year, and they would show a smoother level of performance over the course of time. So, understanding that your financial performance is going to be the story that is going to be attractive or not to the buyer is critical here. And here's the thing that I want to drive home for people, because of course a lot of what I'm talking about, the problems are driven by sellers trying to minimize those taxes. The reason why small businesses end up going up for sale, there are five big ones. There's burnout, boredom, and fatigue, sort of the mental bucket. Divorce, poor health, the need to relocate, and retirement. Right. One of those things retirement is planned for. The other four things are not planned for. They're life circumstances that occur. And so what I say to most business owners is you don't really know when you're going to have to put your business up for sale, right? You might think you're planning for a retirement that could be 10, 15, or 20 years off, but the reality is something could happen in your life in 6 months' time that is going to put you in a position where you realize, hey, I really need to sell this business. And then you're going to have to deal with the choices you made with respect to how you manage the finances of your business. So, my advice to everyone is always to keep that stuff in order so that you're always in a position to tell a good story to people that may want to buy your business. Now, um, poor or inconsistent financial records, you could still sell that business, right? You can have a business that performs poorly, inconsistently, etc., that no bank will lend money on, and you can still sell it. Here's the issue, though: it won't be pleasant for you as a seller because what it'll mean is that you're the one that's going to have to provide the financing. And I've had this harsh conversation with many business owners over the course of time where, I've said to them, look, you've played your games with the tax man and you've profited from that. And the cost of doing that is that you now get to play banker, right? Because no other banker is going to make this loan. So these people end up selling their business with a very small down payment and then they carry a note. And if you're relying upon part of this money for your retirement plan, then guess what? You now have to do a really good job of making sure you choose the right buyer because you now have to manage the risk of that note. And you now are a banker with like a 100% loan portfolio concentration in one deal, right? So if you want to think about it from a lending point of view. All right. Big landmine or sorry, sign number 3 that your business may not be ever sold is big landmine problems that people for some reason choose to ignore. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about things like being too reliant on 1 or 2 big customers. So the customer concentration problem, right? You got 2 customers that represent 60% of sales. And any buyer that looks at that business or their banker is going to say, "Whoa, what happens if this customer goes away?" Right? The Another big one is, for example, no systems or processes, or that you have a lot of equipment in your business, but you haven't updated it. Right? You knew you were going to sell your business one day, so you stopped renewing the capital in your business, the property, plant, and equipment, or furniture, fixtures, and equipment, depending on the type of business that you have. And so now the buyers look at it and they go, okay, well, you have a good business history, but if I buy your business, I'm going to have to put in like $500,000 for new stuff. Like that significantly changes the picture of their investment, right? And so it would reduce the cost of what you're selling to them or the value in their eyes, right? So these big landmine problems, again, create issues for buyers. And if you are a seller, particularly if you are relying upon the sale of your business for some kind of retirement plan, this can be as bad a deal killer as the other two things that I've mentioned already. So you want to make sure that you are building a business which is a system that has people in it that know their jobs, and you've got systems for creating, new customers to draw in new leads, to make new sales. You have a diversified customer base, like all the different things that we know instinctively are going to make a business more appealing to someone who is a buyer. You want to make your business into that if you want to do the sale that I described at the beginning of the video, right? Put it out there for sale on your own or with a broker, have people make offers, get a bank loan, and you get a big check, right? If you're not in that category, then you're going to face these kinds of problems. Now, these big landmine businesses, can they be sold? Yeah, they can. So there was a holiday chat call that I did in the past year, I think, and it was a fellow who wanted to buy a big earth moving construction company that does neighborhood developments, like new subdivisions. They put in the streets and the sewer pipes and the water pipes and all that kind of thing. And this company typically works with one customer a year, right? They one big developer. And they were going to put in a big neighborhood or a subdivision, and this company owns millions of dollars worth of expensive gear. And there's no consistency. There's no booking of jobs years and years out. They know 6 to 8 months in advance of the contract ending that they're going to line up someone else, but it's just too risky. So how does that business get sold? Well, it can get sold, but it's got to have some kind of equity financing versus debt financing, because the balance sheet just can't withstand, the leverage, the need to be able to have to make the payments over time. It's just too risky. But the deal can still get done. Here's the key though, is that the seller has to be properly prepared. They have to understand what it is that they have, why a buyer can't do the deal the way they might want it to be done, and what the deal is going to look like, and how it's going to work out, and how they can use that information in order to choose the correct buyer. See, in a lot of these deals where the seller has to remain involved to some degree afterwards, the key to selling the business is finding the right candidate, right? You need to find someone who is going to have the skills, ability, and demonstrate their commitment through some kind of skin in the game, right? And that's the hardest part, is finding the individual. So if you can't fix the business, you have to fix the deal. And a large part of fixing the deal is understanding what a realistic deal will look like and finding the right candidate to be on the other side of the deal from you as a seller. So here are some of the solutions, et cetera, that I'm gonna put together here, and I've alluded to some of them already. But number one is systematize operations, get systems in place. So I've got a systems program. If you go over to easysmallbizsystems.com, that's easysmallbiz, B-I-Z, systems.com, or Z, uh, you'll find my small business systems course. Whether or not you're ever going to want to sell your business, you should do the program if you own a small business, because it's going to teach you how to make your business easier to run and manage and more pleasant for yourself today. If you buy a business that isn't properly organized, you should also do it as well. The Clean up your bookkeeping and tax filings. So it blows me away whenever I meet people who have a business and I will ask them questions about their income statement or their balance sheet, and like they have no idea what's even in there. Like, if you own a business, you should understand the story that your financial statements are telling you, and you should be able to answer pretty basic questions about your business based on just those pieces of paper. Um, those pieces of paper are telling the story of what's happening in your business. And so, if you're not familiar with financial statements, there's all kinds of educators online that are talking about financial statements. But if you want to test yourself, here's what I would do. I would take your financial statements and I would sit down and I would uh, try to understand what's on there. And then I might even upload them into ChatGPT, and I might say, I'd like you to act as though you are a prospective investor in my business. I'd like you to look at my financial statements critically and ask me questions so that you can better understand how my business works. And then see if you can answer the questions that ChatGPT will bring up for you, right? You won't embarrass yourself in front of anybody. It'll just be you and the computer, but it will start to maybe open some doors to realization. Some of the things that I commonly see are, you know, 5 different kinds of revenue in coming into your business, but only one cost of goods sold line. So it's impossible to calculate your gross margin on each kind of business or type of revenue that you have. Like, you want to be able to know if a certain line of business is profitable or not. And one of the ways you do that is by breaking out your cost of goods sold by revenue category. So you can see, oh, we earn 50% margin on this, we earn an 80% margin on this, and a 20% margin on this, or whatever it is, right? Um, Diversify your customer base, build repeatable revenue. I mean, these are the things that everybody's always trying to do all the time. Get a professional evaluation. So, like, we help people. If you head over to howtosellmyownbusiness.com, you can find some free resources. There's a book over there you can download. As well, you can learn about our evaluation process. It's called the most probable selling price evaluation. We have clients that are getting us to do these, and then they're updating them every couple of years so that they can kind of have like a scorecard showing them the progress that they're doing. and give them a realistic idea of what their business could be sold for if they had to put it on the market. The the biggest problem I ever see with business owners is that they will meet with some kind of financial planner, and the financial planner will ask them, are you going to sell your business to help fund your retirement? And they go, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then they put a number in the plan. Like, this could be 15 or 20 years before the person plans to retire. And they'll put in there, okay, and this year you're going to get a $1 million windfall of cash from selling your business. And there's no reasonable idea of what the business is worth today, if it will continue to hold value into the future, if the business will even be open in the future, and they have no update in the plan as to what the realistic value is going forward. So don't fall into that trap. My advice to most people is to, if you are sort of middle aged in your 40s or something, and selling your business one day is going to be part of your retirement plan, you should definitely have a plan B, right? Which means get money out of that business, take some profits. Like, we talked earlier about demonstrating financial performance and profitability. Nothing demonstrates financial profits and profitability like actually having a profit that you take out of the business, and then you take it and you invest it in other stuff, right? Because then you can show people, this is the money I took out of my business over time. This is real profitability, right? And that's the best demonstration you can have that it's a good business. And if the business blows up in some way, who knows why, you have those other investments that are going to help provide for your retirement. Um, Understand the timelines involved in a deal. So, um, recently, there was a business that I worked with years ago, and I gave them an idea years ago of what their business was worth. So they went through this evaluation process. And then they put their business up for sale in the last year. They did not get me to do an update. Okay. So they put it on the market based on the evaluation I did literally 5 or 6 years ago. And then they started to meet people that wanted to buy their business. And they had a deadline because their lease was going to be coming to an end. And when they started their business sale process, they had like 8 months to spare. And so they started talking with different buyers, and they actually had somebody offer them about 80% of their asking price. Now, this person did not have an updated valuation. This buyer was very keen. They had money to put down. They did ask for a little bit of seller financing, but there wasn't going to be a bank involved. They were just going to put a good sized down payment, and they wanted the seller to finance the balance. And the buyer was an ideal buyer, and it was a husband and wife team that had applicable experience, that they were going to be perfect for this business. And that seller held out, looking for someone who was going to give him the asking price that he thought he wanted. And what ended up happening was he accepted an offer from someone else who gave him the higher price. And then that buyer went through a due diligence process, and then they went back and forth, and then they renegotiated a few things. And before you know it, now we're up against the deadline of the lease, and the buyer pulled out. And then this seller was left with no offer on the table, and had to then decide if they were going to renew a 5-year lease and guarantee that personally again. And what did the seller do? They closed the business. So, I mean, they could have sold it for 80% of their asking price, but they didn't really have an understanding, I think, of the timelines involved, and what could or couldn't happen. And when you're working against something like a lease renewal, then um, time is not on your side unless you're willing to sign a new lease, right? And give yourself an extended period of time. That he didn't want to do that. He wanted to get out of it. So that was an example of somebody who, he spoke with me once, but he certainly didn't give me an opportunity to really coach him through the process. Yeah, otherwise, I would have advised him, take the deal, take the deal that you've been offered, even though it isn't quite the price you want. Because when you decide, I want out, I want to sell this business, your own attitude about the business and the fact that you mentally realize that you're going to leave, it starts to have an impact on the business. Your attitude has an impact with your employees, which can then rub off on the customers. The way you attend to things, the way you respond to things is going to change. And so I often say to people, once you've made that decision to sell, you're almost in this sort of race to liquidate it as an asset. Like, you've got to get it off your plate. Otherwise, the fact that you've decided to sell it is going to eventually have an impact on the business. And I know that, one of the selling features that business brokers often point to when they're talking with people about listing a business for sale is they'll say, hey, if you list the business and let me take care of all these buyers, then you can focus on operating the business. And the idea behind that advice is that a business owner needs to be focused on success and profit and sales and all that kind of stuff every day, because that's what maintains the value of the business. As soon as you take your foot off the gas and you start to relax a little bit, or you're starting to check out mentally, the business will start to fall apart. And as soon as you record financial statements that show any kind of decline for a lot of buyers, suddenly you're in red flag territory and they're all like, "Woo, what's going on with this? There's a problem of some kind." And it makes it even more difficult to sell. Anyway, with that, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you want to learn more about how we can help you sell a business, go over to howtosellmyownbusiness.com. Again, there's free resources over there and videos that show all the different steps in the process of selling a business. And even if you're years and years and years away from a prospective sale date, think about getting an evaluation done. Learn what your business would likely sell for and what we think would be the likely terms of sale, because it'll definitely help you better prepare for all the other stuff you've got going on in your life. Um, and like I said, it's hard to sell a business. For a lot of business owners out there, having an alternative retirement plan, whatever that looks like, is key to making sure that you're going to be able to enjoy the years at the end of your life. I mean, this is why we see people who are like still in their business, 75 and 80 years old. Many of them don't have a choice. And I think it's safe to say that it's best to be in a position where you have choices. And with that, I'll say thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to sign up for the email list if you haven't already. Bye.
So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I've prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.